of time because this space was not designed for me and my voice is not the one that's most marginalized. But I did want to apologize for the lack of presence of Black, male, cisgender individuals lifting up those names, of supporting and loving Black women, all Black women, the way that you have loved us. If you look around this crowd, I can count less than a handful of others who look like me. And that's shameful. Because when Laquan McDonald was killed, when Mike Brown was killed, when Alton Sterling was killed, men went out into the streets in droves and still followed behind the women. But when our women are taken from us, our men far often are far too silent. And it's because we haven't done our job. And then you go on social media and you have to see how our Black women are torn apart. How they're talked about their hair, how they're talked about the way they look, the way they behave, and demanding respectability from them, and we don't stand up in either. So when it comes to the state violence that inflicts pain and death upon our women, we as men too often are complicit in that violence, and that has to stop. So when you hear the story of a Corinne Gaines, and you look for excuse after excuse to justify why she was murdered in front of her child, you are complicit in her death. As a Black, male, cisgender individual, you are complicit in her death. Because if Cliven Bundy can hole up on his property with a shotgun for over 20 days, there's no reason why they couldn't wait 20 more minutes to let that woman talk to her mother. There's no excuse for that. You can't look at the fact that whether or not she had mental illness. That's not part of the discussion because the mentally ill deserve to live just as much. So when you talk about a Tanisha Anderson, who lost her life when her family asked for help from the police, and the way that they helped her was to smash her head against the concrete, where were the men standing and demanding justice for her then? And when Ashley Sherman was killed right here in our own backyard, men who are too afraid and are too stuck in their transphobic, homophobic rhetoric that they can't acknowledge that one of their own siblings was taken from them and stand up and demand justice. We are complicit in their deaths so long as we remain silent. We can't sit here on one note and say it is our duty to fight for our freedom and leave our sisters behind. That was never what we were designed to do. And if women are stepping up, and if women are standing out and demanding justice for us, then we have to be equally as loud, if not louder, in demanding the same for them. My hope is that we won't have to make this a yearly occasion where we honor the names of these women. And the list is by no means exhausted, and I know that there are some who have been forgotten. But after today, it is our responsibility to not only look up those names, but remember their stories and continue to tell them, because their stories have been ignored. Because while everyone can equally talk about the story of Mike Brown, no one knows what happened to Sharice Francis. While everyone knows what happened to Tamir Rice, very few know what happened to Aiyana Stanley Jones. Their stories must live on through us, because until we make the state stand up and do their job and ensure that we as Black people receive justice, not delayed, not denied, but immediate, their stories have to be the catalyst. And we have to speak their stories that they can no longer speak for themselves. I thank you for your presence today. I honor the women who have been in these spaces. We have a responsibility beyond today. And I know that it is up to each and every one of us, and every person here has already taken that step. It would also ignite that spark in someone else to make sure that we are standing, affirming, and protecting our differently abled, our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, our cousins, our siblings, trans and cis, for affirming their lives and protecting them so that we will never have to make a hashtag and say their names. Thank you.